started? Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being on our webinar. We'll be getting started probably in about 10 minutes, so just hold tight.
Lauren Casas. Shawnee Oskovich.
Hello?
Great, Eric. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to wait a few more minutes to make sure everyone is on and can hear the audio. So we're going to wait just a few more minutes. In the meantime, if you want to go ahead and use the public chat to tell us who you are, where you're representing, and where you're working out of. Thanks.
Sarah.
Ariel Bustamante, GSA Network.
Hi everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. Just a reminder to go ahead and mute yourselves. You can hit *6 on your phone to mute yourself. So, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. I'm excited to welcome everyone to our second Love is Not Abuse webinar. Today we will be discussing collaborating with schools. My name is Nicole Varma, and I'm here with my colleagues at Break the Cycle, Kelly Hampton, Erin Clark, Damian Frierson, and Katie Ward, who all work in our Training and Technical Assistance team in our DC office. And we also have Eric Anderson, our Director of Education and Public Campaigns from our LA office. Before we begin, I will briefly go over some logistics for today's webinar. If you are disconnected from the webinar at any time, go back to the original email and click on the link again to log back in. If you have any problems getting back on, please call iLink support, and my colleague Katie will put the number in the text chat, in the public chat. We will be muting everyone on the call, so use the chat feature for any questions, problems, or comments you might have. You can find the chat box on the lower corner on the left-hand side of your screen. If you happen to only be on the audio portion, you can email Katie at kward, which is Kward, at breakthecycle.org. And she'll also put her email, into the text box if anyone on our, not just on the audio portion, needs that. We will have space for questions throughout the webinar. Please chat your questions. If we can't answer them on this call, we will reach out to you afterwards. We have a lot of ground to cover, and we want to make sure that we can address all questions. If you run into any technical problems, please send a private chat to Katie. To do this, click on the gray private chat that's on top to the right of the public chat tab inside the chat box. Double-click on Katie Ward, and a box will pop up for you to send Katie a private message. So we will be sending out both the PowerPoint slides and the link to the recording, so don't fret if you miss anything. We'll also have a poll at the end of the webinar, so make sure to gather your thoughts. So before I start the substantive portion of the webinar, I want to take a moment to talk about Love is Not Abuse, or LINA for short, and give a brief history of LINA and an update of what's happening now. So in 1991, Liz Claiborne became the first major corporation in America to take a stand on domestic violence when it launched Women's Work, an anti-abuse public service awareness campaign known by its tagline, Love is Not Abuse. In 1995, the program adapted to focus college students, and then in 1999, Women's Work shifted to focus to parents and created a parent handbook. In 2005, Liz Claiborne partnered with Break the Cycle to create a teen dating violence prevention curriculum known as the Love is Not Abuse curriculum. It launched in April of 2006 and was updated in 2010. It has been distributed to more than 11,000 schools and organizations in all 50 states. We are updating the curriculum, so if you are downloading it and learning it for the first time, please know that it will change and be re-released this fall. So look out for announcements about the new curriculum and webinars to familiarize yourself with it. It's Time to Talk Day. It's also one of the premier events of the Love is Not Abuse Coalition, and the events include more than 28 hours of talk radio time dedicated to subject matter of domestic violence and aired on more than 900 stations, reaching more than 12.5 million viewers. The 2014 It's Time to Talk Day will be happening in several cities in early 2014 to help highlight Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, which is coming up in February. We'll be announcing dates and cities on our Facebook and email alerts in the next few weeks, so please make sure to keep a lookout for those. The Love is Not Abuse Coalition launched in December of 2008 and is a growing national grassroots coalition of parents, teachers, service providers, and anyone who's advocating for teen dating abuse education in every middle and high school in the country. Through the Love is Not Abuse website, which is now found on breakthecycle.org, which Katie will put up on our public chat, you can become a member, download resources, contact your schools and legislators, and receive the Love is Not Abuse curriculum. In October of 2012, Love is Not Abuse moved to the Break the Cycle umbrella. Break the Cycle was founded in 1996 as a leading national nonprofit organization that provides preventive dating and domestic violence education and outreach to youth and teens and young adults. As I mentioned earlier, my name is Nicole Varma, and I'm the Grassroots Coordinator for Break the Cycle. I'm based in our DC office, and I have been with Break the Cycle on a variety of capacities since September 2010. And I recently moved into our communications department to work with and oversee the Lena brand and Lena Coalition. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions about the coalition, please reach out to me. I am here to support you all. I'd like to highlight one of our current public awareness campaigns, which is How Do You Define Love? Because we often hear about dating abuse framed in the negative, we want to reframe our issue in the positive by helping our young people determine what a healthy relationship is. So part of this reframing, we're asking our Lena members to help us define love. You can go to breakthecycle.org/Lena-define-love for more details. That brings us to this webinar series. We want to make sure that you're prepared and ready to bring the new and improved curriculum to your local schools. So we have developed this 3-part webinar series entitled The Building Blocks of Success to assist you in implementing the new Lena curriculum this fall and give you the tools for promoting other anti-violence work in your community. Our next webinar will be on October 15th, where we will be discussing how to talk with youth, or how to talk to youth and work with survivors. If you have any questions throughout this webinar, please feel free to use the chat feature to public chat or private chat my colleagues. And once again, they are Kelly, Erin, Katie, Damien, or Eric. Does anyone have any questions before we begin? Okay, and with that, I'll jump into the topic of today's webinar, which is building collaborative relationships with schools. Today we will be discussing why we work with schools, how working with schools can support prevention, intervention, and response to abuse, what a collaborative relationship with a school can look like, and how you can build successful, sustainable collaboration with schools. Some of you may work or volunteer with domestic or sexual assault service agencies who may already work with young people or want to learn how to better address the needs of young survivors of abuse. Some of you are parents, but no matter what hat you wear, it is helpful to consider the role that schools can play in supporting your efforts. Developing relationships with your child's school or with schools in your local service area can ensure that your work is sustainable and impactful. It can also begin to shift the social norms from norms that allow dating for social norms. If you work in or with a school, you have a lot of expertise to share with the coalition. Please do not hesitate to type in the chat or any thoughts or lessons that you've learned that you think would be helpful in assisting others during the webinar. Okay, so first I want to take a quick poll. How many of you currently have a relationship with a school? go ahead and click on A or B, yes or no. I'll give you a couple more seconds to answer the question. All right, I'm going to share the results with you all. It looks like 46% of you said yes, you do currently have a relationship with the school, and 11% said no, you do not currently have a relationship with the school. Great. So why are schools so important? Middle and high schools are a great place to interact with a high number of young people on a daily basis. Working with schools provides an opportunity to work with teachers and staff that already have a built-in relationship with the student. Physical and sexual victimization are associated with increased risk for school dropout, for lower grades, and less connectedness to school. Schools therefore have an immediate vested interest in providing quality intervention and response services. An informed school is a safer school. We all have the same common goal: community safety and healthy, successful young people. This common goal can bring us together. Schools aim to provide safe spaces for young people to learn and grow, and we aim to provide high-quality prevention, intervention, and response to survivors. Abuse occurs across all boundaries and can impact the life of any young person. Both young men and women can be perpetrating abuse. Dating abuse happens in all neighborhoods, income levels, and ethnic groups, in straight and LGBT relationships. This may seem to you. Someone not working around dating regularly can easily shrug it off as something that doesn't happen in their school or not to their kids. It's important to note most abuse gets more severe over time for a variety of reasons, including lack of time and competing priorities. Many school officials and teachers aren't receiving training on dating abuse. So they may be aware of they may not be aware of the prevalence and severity, and may not know the best way to respond to a student they suspect might be experiencing abuse. 1 in 3 teens experience some kind of abuse in their romantic relationships. 1 in 10 teens experience physical abuse in dating relationships. A third, or about 32%, of female homicide among adolescents between the ages of 11 and 18 are committed by an intimate partner. And 1 in 4 teens in a relationship say they've been called names, harassed, or put down by their partner through cell phones and texting. As we've mentioned, experiences of dating abuse can negatively impact students' school success, graduation, or connectedness to the school. These numbers suggest that many students, whether themselves or their friends, are impacted by dating abuse, and therefore so is their time, participation, and safety at school. Quality intervention, prevention, and response to dating abuse must consider the perspective of the young people we are seeking to support. Even if a person recognizes that they are experiencing abuse, there may be many obstacles to reporting abuse facing youth in abusive relationships. These include concerns about anonymity and confidentiality, fear of retaliation, embarrassment, pressure to be in a relationship, a dating partner is well-liked in the school and popular, confusion about whether sexual assault even occurred in the first place. So there's lots of obstacles facing youth. I'm going to call my colleague Eric, who is the Director of Education, to help me talk about what's happening in schools now. Eric?
All right, thanks, Nicole. So we wanted to start by sharing a little bit as well of what the teen perspective is when it comes to issues around relationships, healthy relationships and unhealthy relationships. It's important to really keep that in mind, because if we approach this issue without the teen perspective, then we're not necessarily helping schools or helping ourselves provide the most comprehensive and effective tools and support to those teens who potentially could be victims of abuse. I think it's these are all important, you could call them best practices or lessons learned that we have taken away from the years of work that we've been doing here in the Los Angeles schools and the schools in DC, as well as those people who have used our other curriculums outside of the LENA curriculum. First and foremost, it's important to understand the culture of the community. Violence, especially in those neighborhood communities or neighborhoods that would be considered lower economic communities, can oftentimes that violence is both expected and accepted by the teens in that community. What that means is that a teen who expects or is wary of violence just leaving their house to get down the street, to get onto the bus or get to and from their school, is going to be more likely to expect or accept dating abuse or other forms of violence as another cultural and community norm within their environment. Language barriers, preconceived gender roles, domestic violence in the home also obviously contribute to it, which we all are aware of. An interesting thing that we have found with young people that we work with is that they don't necessarily always believe at this point that there could be a positive change for themselves. But when you refer to younger siblings or younger family members, I would say almost nearly unanimously believe that there should be change and that they would like to be able to help create the change for those younger siblings and family members. Youth oftentimes perceive physical acts of abuse masked as playful behavior, play fighting. That's not just because of the perceptions that they have amongst their peers. This is something that they hear oftentimes from teachers and other adults. An example that I like to give very often is one of the first times that young people learn that unhealthy behaviors might be actually quote-unquote acceptable is when they're very young, kindergarten, first grade, and a child goes to their teacher and says, so-and-so has been making fun of me, and I've heard it, many other young people have heard it, teachers have reported saying it. They say, oh, well, that's just because they like you. They're teasing you because they like you. And that statement sets off the idea and implants the thought that young people need to be teased and insulted to be able to get that affection back from someone. Youth victims of abuse also feel especially vulnerable to being peer pressured, going farther than what they want or farther than they're comfortable with. Research does show that oftentimes young people still do take or choose the pathway that's going to lead to the most immediate gratification or immediate positive results versus regardless of what the long-term consequences might be. One other area to keep in perspective is the nature of communication and privacy and the generational differences and the differences in the viewpoints between how teens view communication and how adults view communication. One of the most important things to remember that we tell adults and teachers that we have trained is that an adult, their view of privacy, for example, might be however far the phone cord reached from their kitchen to maybe they were able to stretch the cord long enough to be able to get into a closet to have some privacy while they're on the phone. Maybe they had a second line in their bedroom, but anybody could pick up that phone and listen in on the conversation. Now teens have a virtual wall around them because no one can see what is exactly occurring on their cell phones. They can hide that information. They can keep that information much more private. But at the same time, they also have a completely different idea about what privacy is and what they are willing or not willing to share online. It can make it difficult, and that can pose a challenge to understanding that teen perspective, but it's really important to remember that these systems, the social networks, etc., that teens use to communicate As long as they're being used in a healthy manner, it is not necessarily up to teachers and all of us to determine what that healthy manner is. It's up to us to help young people understand that they have the right to choose the limits and the boundaries that they are comfortable with. Nicole, do we want to move on to the next slide? Great. So this slide now presents some of the current challenges people face making dating abuse a priority issue for schools. This is research that comes from a variety of different places that I know that we can, for those of you who'd be interested in the research, we can provide the citations. 80% of school counselors report not having a protocol in schools to respond to incidents of abuse. 90% reported that no training is being given to teachers or staff. And 80% reported that their schools didn't conduct periodic surveys around dating abuse behaviors. These numbers by itself are very alarming. It is important to remember that we're not just here to share these statistics and say, oh, well, we are really looking at how can we improve these numbers through the strategies that we're discussing today. And how can we demonstrate to school administrators, school counselors, or other important officials and teachers within the schools that these strategies really will make an impact in both the comfort level of a teacher and an administrator in addressing incidents of abuse, as well as having that basic conversation about healthy relationships. I also think it's important to really remember the impact that this also has on victims. Regardless of any misconceptions that the school or school administrators may have, or regardless of lack of preparation on the school's part, that doesn't minimize or eliminate the reality that there are victims of abuse at their schools. So it is really important to remember that for every school that doesn't have those school counselors trained or teachers trained to respond to incidents correctly, those schools that do not survey their students to see what is going on in their school around perceptions and behaviors, and especially for those schools that do not have a protocol in place to respond to incidents of abuse, that those challenges all make it much more difficult for a victim of abuse to get the help that they need. And finally, talking about what's going on right now in the schools. Most organizations, Break the Cycle, CDC, a number of other organizations, Hazelden Publishing, for example, which publishes several programs, they all see school prevention through the socio-ecological lens and understand that this is a community effort. More and more programs are moving away from that lecture-driven style presentations for an adult standing in front of a group of children and teens talking about this issue, and realizing that peer-led, advocacy-based learning really is much more effective. This is seen time and time again within accepted youth development research, that lasting change only occurs when youth speak out on their own behalf. Break the Cycle specifically really promotes a number of different programs that have that youth-led advocacy built in, service learning programs, as well as resources and tools that can assist schools in improving or adopting new policies that are centered around response and how to address incidents of abuse. The other real important growing area is finding ways to have learning on multiple levels with multiple different parties, and that includes parents as well. We really believe that parents need to be involved in prevention and awareness, as well as supporting the work that is peer-led at the schools. That buy-in is very important for young people to see that adults believe in their work, that they believe that their opinions are valid and validated, and that will help ensure that the programming that's being implemented is able to be sustainable and have a much broader impact.
Great, thank you so much, Eric. Does anyone have any questions for Eric before I continue? Great. So we've outlined many reasons why working with schools is so important and how working with schools can improve prevention, intervention, and response. There are many elements to school success in working to end dating abuse. It doesn't start and end with doing prevention education to students in health classes. In addition to prevention programs, other important elements include staff education, school policy, parental involvement, and youth activism. So we're going to take another quick poll. All right, so I'll give you a few questions, or a few seconds to select. Our question is, which of these elements of school success in addressing dating abuse can you play a role in? And the options are A, prevention programs, B, staff education, C, school policy, D, involved parents, and E, youth activism. So I'll give you a few seconds to select. We're going to discuss each one briefly, but we could easily have done an entire webinar series on each one of these. All right, so I'm going to share the results with you. It looks as though 11% of you think the most important element to school success is prevention programs, 6% say staff education, 8% say school policy, 17% say involved parents, and 25% say youth activism. All right. So we'll start with prevention programs. Prevention programming can be many things, including implementation of curriculum in schools, public awareness campaigns, or single classes about healthy relationships. Based on our work with schools in developing and implementing prevention education strategies, here are some of the lessons that we have learned to supporting a successful prevention program implementation. Approach both middle and high schools in your area with age and developmentally appropriate middle and high school programs. Aim to saturate the school. When you're there, try and get to every grade level. This helps build relationships and it has a greater impact. Can work into existing health education or relationship building work. Become familiar with other programming at the school, including their health education and community skills, and also the presentations done by outside agencies. Use or adapt evidence-based programs. For example, the updated LENA curriculum is evidence-based. Make sure you understand the needs of the school and some of the challenges that you may face in the school. So one element of this is time, scheduling, or political climate. Staff and teachers are most likely feeling the squeeze of time already. There's so much to teach and not that much class time to do it in. Adolescent and sexual health and violence can be a very divisive issue, and efforts to do teen dating violence work in schools can often be met with resistance, so make sure that you're prepared for that. The next element is staff education. As Eric mentioned, schools may not have staff available with training in dating and domestic violence prevention and response. They may not be able to provide the highest quality services for their young people without expert guidance or assistance. Additionally, many staff are stretched thin to cover a wide range of responsibilities and may not have the time or capacity to address dating violence specifically. Service providers and volunteers can fill this gap and reach large numbers of young people by educating schools on local resources or provide education for schools. Parents can also help bridge this gap by implementing the LENA curriculum or helping to raise awareness in the school about the issue of dating abuse. Together, a mutual goal can be met and successful relationship supporting both the needs of both organizations. And invested staff can definitely change school climate. link dating abuse to academic success and school safety. Dating abuse can affect student success, graduation, and connectedness with the school. Promoting effective intervention and response can be vital to their academic success. And these generally resonate really well with teachers and staff, so make sure to bring those points up. You must be prepared for disclosures of abuse. Be knowledgeable about the state and local laws and policies. Address concerns of mandatory reporting and confidentiality. Knowing the legal obligations, like mandated reporting, allows teachers to be consistent in responding to dating abuse while taking into account the unique needs of students. An example or an interesting idea would be to provide sample resources for them. We've seen it done as a one-pager or a wallet-sized business card that they can keep on hand. Some of the logistical challenges with staff education is staff time. Like we said, they're already stretched very thin, and administrative buy-in can be difficult and sometimes hard to come by, and clarity of policy requirements. So make sure to do your homework and be patient. School policy is the next element. An effective and well-written dating abuse policy educates youth, parents, and staff on dating abuse and the resources available to them. A set of policies outlines consistent and enforceable disciplinary and administrative frameworks that are sensitive to the needs of young people. For students, policies provide a reliable avenue through which to seek help. A policy reassures students who may have experienced abuse that institutional support exists, and it provides a clear method for accessing this support. For educators, an effective policy highlights an individual's responsibilities, and it gives them the tools to consistently respond to incidences. For a school, policy educates all employees about their responsibilities and their rights, and the rights of students and their parents in a way that limit liability and create safer spaces. Policy can also be an opportunity for awareness building and public education. Prevention programming, youth activism, and parental support can also contribute to your efforts in advocating for school policy. Parents. They're often an overlooked element in the school system. Parents and guardians can be a precious resource for developing relationships with schools. They can provide information about the school climate and the involvement of other parents in school activities. Many staff at youth-serving community agencies may already be parents of students at schools, and other key stakeholders, for instance, board members, principals, local politicians, they may already have children and family members at the school. Listen to how parents understand and talk about dating abuse in their community. Understand cultural and community needs, as well as where and when parents gather. Address parental concerns. Include them in relationship building as powerful stakeholders. Some of the logistical concerns are free time and investment in the issue, and personal versus community understanding of dating abuse. I'm going to let Eric talk a little bit more about our last element, which is youth activism. Eric?
Great. Thanks, Nicole. So, as many of you know, one of our key programmatic areas and one of our biggest beliefs is that youth have to speak out on their own behalf if we're going to create true lasting change. And so that youth activism really is it's an intentional component of all of our work. We also see that significantly in the Love is Respect National Youth Advisory Board, which is a group of 24 young people from between the ages of 14 and 24 who come together monthly on conference calls and work across the country to create new educational and outreach activities, help develop more resources, and guide what Love is Respect is doing online and offline to promote healthy relationships. And one of the great things that they're going to be doing is that they have a hand in developing awareness activities and relatable topics of conversation for the new LENA curriculum, so that we're able to say that the new version of the curriculum is even more peer-authored, peer-led, and peer-supported. By doing so, we're creating leaders and activists that will continue the conversation about healthy relationships. There are a few points behind that that are, of course, really important to understand and to be able to share with schools that are still leery about this type of peer-led prevention work. First, youth are more likely to listen to peers than their adults. Research shows that young people turn to their friends several times and alternate between friends and looking for information on the web before they ever turn to an adult for assistance. So we need to make sure that trained young people are out there as advocates and good upstanders to be able to appropriately address the misconceptions that young people might have about what abuse looks like, as well as connect them to the vital resources and support that are available nationwide and through the loveisrespect.org. Additionally, mentorship and service learning reinforce prevention lessons. They also help contribute to developmental assets that are needed for young people to become successful. And most importantly, this work is designed to help young people develop the 21st century real-world life skills that they need as adults. This is vital training. It's not dating abuse prevention inside a bubble. The work that they're doing learning about healthy relationships impacts their ability to have all sorts of successful interpersonal relationships. I also want to point out that this type of intentional involvement of youth in the prevention process and involved in just the overall effort that a school makes towards eliminating dating abuse really becomes much more successful than what I mentioned earlier, the sort of more old school lecture style lesson plans and school prevention programs that many schools have been familiar with and what they've assumed is the only option out there. We really want to use these opportunities to show schools that there is a new way, one that involves open discussion and ability for young people to speak out for themselves. Of course, that does come with some challenges. Students are busier than ever between homework, and many schools and classrooms are still mired in lesson plans and schedules that have so much more to do with testing and standardized testing than effective issue-based service learning programs, et cetera, that really will make a stronger impact on young people. So there's a lack of time. There's a lack of ability for teachers to take on another program for supervision. So that's why we like making these programs peer-led, so that the youth leaders in various schools can assist and support adult educators. And then also the sustainability with student turnover. There's always the risk and the challenge that when you launch a dating violence prevention program, particularly that has a youth activism component, that once that group of young people leave the school, there's no one there to continue the work. That's why what we do in our local programs is we actually put a very significant effort in educating and engaging 11th graders, particularly because what we found is that the 11th graders that complete our programs and complete a youth activism component are more likely to want to return and support the program the following year, sort of as quote-unquote junior mentors, where it's maybe only like a select few, but those select few people who have moved on to being seniors in high school but still feel that this is an important issue to address, can come back and assist in presentations and make the program even more peer-led and support the new group of 11th graders or 10th graders, in launching these efforts and continuing the efforts. That's how we believe you make this type of work sustainable. You're putting it in the young person's hands. You're making sure that the adult facilitators and adult educators understand the importance of that, and then providing those adults with the tools and the guidance that they need to support these peer-led efforts. Nicole?
Great. Thank you so much, Eric. I just wanted to address a question that's come in. Both the PowerPoint slides and the recording will be available after the webinar, but additionally, we're releasing a LENA digital toolkit later this fall, which will be covering all of the issues we're addressing today and many more. and it'll be downloadable from our website. And we're hoping to have that out to you in October or November. So we'll be emailing you that out. But all of this information will be available for you to print and to hand out to your community leaders and your colleagues. So, also, we'll be talking more about engaging youth in our next webinars, so be sure to join us in October. All right, so let's take a minute to take stock of where we have been so far in this webinar. We've discussed why schools are so important. We have discussed key elements to successful schools response and how we can play a role in that response. Let's finish out the webinar discussing who we are forging these relationships with at schools and how we can ensure that our relationships with schools are sustainable and successful. There are so many people involved in the school ecosystem, it's hard to figure out who to work with. Creative outreach to stakeholders is an integral part of building a sustainable relationship. Engaging multiple parties in the work of dating violence prevention, intervention, and response in local schools is important for sustainability and for support. Part of strategic relationship building is finding out who makes certain decisions or pulls certain weight on the targeted goal for the collaboration. These may be different people in every school. Existing formal or informal relationships with stakeholders are a strength communities that can be capitalized on. Reach out to staff, clients, and other partner organizations for members who may have already have a close relationships with the school system, whether as a student, a parent, staff member, involved volunteer, or partner. If they're willing, their involvement in the engagement process or insight on the decision-making inner workings of the school can be very important background information. So make sure to ask around. All right, so our last poll. If you have a relationship with a school, who have you found the most receptive? Go ahead and use the public chat to let us know who you have found to be the most receptive at your local school. Okay, so Maria says teachers, Shalonda says principal, we're seeing teachers, health and family consumer science teachers, yes, support staff, school counselors, health teachers, absolutely. All right, anyone else? So teachers and counselors, school health advisory committees, absolutely. So how do you know who to reach out to support your work? As we finish our session, I'd like to share with you some lessons learned along the way from our partners who have successfully built relationships with schools. Guidance counselors may not feel equipped to deal with dating abuse and therefore can be strong allies. School boards are excellent to promote policy change support. Bring along youth advocates. This is not only a great leadership opportunity, but it's also harder to argue with the experience of the youth themselves. Principal support can be key step to winning over reluctant teachers. Time is scarce for schools, so make sure to be flexible. Involve supportive stakeholders as much as possible. And use other schools' successes for referrals to new schools. All right, so we know who to talk to and form relationships with, but how do we do it? What do we do first? We evaluate school readiness, assess community needs, establish project goals and timelines, identify stakeholders, identify existing relationships with stakeholders, build collaborative team and relationships, re-examine project goals and timelines with collaborative team, outline the details of the project or partnership, including responsibilities and external factors, present a contract, an MOU, or agreement for parties to sign, implement regular team meetings and periodic goals, and evaluate progress consistently to support growth. So, assessing school climate and school readiness. What is the history of school domestic violence agency partnerships? What is the current level of collaboration between the school and any domestic violence or sexual assault agencies? What is the relationship between this school and other schools in the area? Are there other education programs or activities competing for the school's time or the students' time even? Does the school have any dating violence, bullying, or harassment policies? This can be interesting. A lot of times, a reaction by the school board or the principal will be, well, we already implemented bullying policies or bullying education. Why do we have to do this too? So make sure that you arm yourself with the information ahead of time. Are there any staff members who have exhibited any interest in the issue? This can be very helpful. So assessing the climate. Has there been any highly publicized incidents of dating violence or domestic violence that youth may have heard about or witnessed? What social dynamics impact student relationships at the school, including class, racial, religious, geographic differences? How are dating, abuse, adolescent relationships, and sexuality talked about at the school? That's a very important one to know. What exposure to dating abuse programming have the students had, if any? What access to supportive services do students have at the school? And what training have administrators and staff undergone on dating abuse? Again, if they have any at all. So know how to talk to about it. So first we'll start with health teachers. A lot of you mentioned that you find them the most effective. Health education teachers or teachers who also teach health education curricula can be good partners to collaborate with. Speaking with them about how they talk about sex and relationships and getting a feel for what students in the school have learned so far will allow for continuity between programs. This is also an opportunity to learn if there's a space in their health education curricula to be a guest speaker or introduce the agency's services and resources. Sometimes if they won't let you come in and do the curricula, you can work with the health teacher so they can teach it, or you can give handouts or resources. Guidance counselors often serve both as academic and emotional support roles. Many agencies report their support has been vital to the success of their programs. Intervention and response support, as well as expertise from service agencies, has helped fill a gap that counselors are not equipped to fill. They can be advocates in getting principals and school boards on board if needed. School nurses. Nurses have a strong understanding of the needs of students and may have a good feel for social norms around reporting and understanding dating violence in the school. But again, like Eric was mentioning, with counselors, there's been recent studies shown that school nurses also don't feel equipped or adequately trained in dating abuse. So it's great to talk to them about how to talk about the issue as well. Principals may be faced with a wide range of responsibilities. They typically report to superintendents, but are more involved in the logistical decisions of a school. A supportive principal can win over reluctant teachers and parents and can be very helpful in managing the logistics of the relationship, including scheduling challenges or confidentiality questions, for example. And the superintendent. The role of the superintendents can vary widely across districts. and are more likely to be spread very thin. These professionals answer to both the community and the school board, and are often the target for criticism. A successful school superintendent can simultaneously be a gateway for changing school policies, improving school climate, and supporting effective community programming. Their disapproval of a partnership could also severely limit its future. Having strong allies before approaching them may be very helpful. School boards. School board meetings can be a great place to find out what's going on at the school, the priorities of the year, and who makes decisions. They may need to approve curriculum, require testimony on the value of the program, or just have questions about the process of implementing agency involvement. Boards will likely be up to date on state policy requirements, and they can be strong allies. So go prepared with handouts, available data, and youth advocates if possible. If meetings are not open for public input, drafting a letter can also be very helpful. Parent groups. Parent groups have a substantial amount of power to make things happen in the school. So these relationships take time. Building trust and familiarity with your service providers, role and interest in working with the school may be challenging, particularly if you're an outsider of the specific school community. It takes time to become a familiar face, so keep coming around whenever you have a chance. And this is especially helpful because we've seen there's a lot of turnaround with school personnel, so make sure that you're going routinely so you're meeting all of the new faces as well. All right, so laying the groundwork. Be explicit about goals and take time to understand the goals and priorities of the school. Talk through the objectives that can make those goals a reality. Develop objectives with a mutual understanding of the available resources and clarify on how these resources are distributed. Seek out staff experienced in task force, partnerships, and collaboration to bring their expertise to the group. And make sure to take time to build trust between partners. How do we foster investment? Use neutral spaces for meetings, designate and clarify roles of partners, take minutes and create agendas to maintain the structure, mutual authority and accountability, practice consensus decision-making, equitable distribution of all the tasks, can improve partner buy-in, share publicity and credit for events, publications, and successes, ask for invitations to relevant school staff or task force meetings, and make sure that representatives from all levels of administration and staff are available and because they're valuable, including clients and or students. All right, so here are some youth-friendly resources. Eric spoke quite a bit about Love is Respect. It is a Break the Cycle partnership with the National Dating Abuse Helpline. Love is Respect .org has many great resources online. It has a fabulous blog, which is updated. It's for youth by youth, so that can be very helpful in your youth activism. There's also a really great tool called the Relationship Spectrum. It's great to use in classrooms. And we have lots of great handouts. There's lots of one-pagers and quizzes and posters, palm cards that they're all available for download. They're all free and available to anyone. So these are really great resources to bring that you can download and bring into schools. And there's some great videos on loveisrespect.org. I encourage you all to check it out. Of course, Love is Not Abuse. As we mentioned, all of the content from loveisnotabuse.org has migrated to breakthecycle.org, but you can use all of those materials, including the new curriculum. The new curriculum will be out later this fall, and we're going to have several webinars to talk about how to implement it. TeenDVmonth.org is our hub for 2014 Teen DVAM, which is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, which again is in February. There are many, many ways for youth, parents, and community members to get involved. So definitely check that out. There is another one called that'snotcool.com. Face It, Don't Facebook It. Coaching Boys into Men can be very helpful if you're working with coaches. For example, football coaches. A lot of coaches have the respect and great relationships with young men. And the last one, last but not least, the White House put out a video and a program last year, One is Too Many. And so that can be found at whitehouse.gov, One is Too Many. All right, so that includes my presentation. Does anyone have any questions for myself or my colleagues? As a reminder, all of the lines are muted, so use the public or private chat to ask your questions. We'll be posting a quick survey about this webinar, so please take a few minutes to let us know how we did. And thank you all for attending our second webinar on Building Blocks to Success series. We look forward to chatting with you next month about how to talk to teens and work with survivors. Let's see. And yeah, if you have any specific questions, you can email expert@breakthecycle.org. They're especially helpful in navigating the world of school policies and mandated reporting confidentiality. And like I mentioned, we will be posting both the recording, the link to the recording, and our PowerPoint slides. We'll be emailing those out to you. And all this information will be in our digital toolkit, which will come out later this fall. And please do use our survey. We do use these to track how effective our webinars are so that we can adjust to the needs. So thank you so much.